name is, my name is, come on, my name is, Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Aussie Minifan Show. I'm your host, New Manners. I'm joined by Aussie Stoolie, and this is the December edition of the Aussie Minifan Show. Aussie Stoolie, Jamie, how are you?
So you just dropped out a bit there.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good to be back. It's been a long month.
Has been a long month. Look, there was a lot of great feedback about the return of the Aussie Minifan Show last time. We were both KMS quoted. I was quoted about, me talking about having to reassure Kirk of his talent. And again, I've inspired him. He's following me into a new genre that I'm going into, podcasting. So, Kirk and I have a symbiotic relationship, and it was discussed in the last show. But the real hot take was you fucking hate Carano. Now, tell me, you had 2 weeks of Carano on the show. Did that sort of make you like him more?
I'll be honest. I only listened to the episode with Steve and Tim while Carano was in, and when Carabas was in, and just tore him a new one because I just can't listen. I don't hate him. Like that's what came. I don't hate him. It's just like you can't. He went back at us about, the guy who has a show based on the fact that, we're in the Minifan world. It's based on Minifans, but like we don't get paid for this. This is just for fun. We do this for fun to talk about a show, like a podcast we love. And like to say that was like, come on, man, you're really clutching at straws. I would say 99.9% of their subscribers are Minifans.
Definitely.
It's just not even close to what we do. Like I have my own show. I share it on my Aussie Stoolie page, but I don't just pump it to Minifans. Most of our audience is like UK and Australians. So it's just a bit rich, saying that we're doing this and only have the show because of Minifans, but we're not making money off it. We just do this for fun.
This is a fucking fan show, Carano, you moron.
We're not clout chasing. This is just for fun. 2 Aussies talking about an American podcast. It's the way we do.
Yeah.
I don't hate him. That's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, I must admit, when you pointed out to me the clout chasing and stuff of Carano, and I like the guy. I think he does pretty well when he's producing. I will trust Kirk's judgment, but it is pretty evident that he's in it for himself. And so every appearance he does, there's the fucking Quantum Week logo in the background. He puts Quantum Week in every show description he puts up. He talks about it all the time. He's on. He went on the YouTube network and he stopped going on the YouTube network now and put that behind a Patreon paywall. So he's a nice guy. He's obviously trying to get rid of Justin. He wants Justin's job. He wants Steve's job. So I guess I find that a bit hard to take. I like him. He does a good job. But if I was talking to Carano as a mate, I would just say, ease back. I mean, he has asked Kirk for a job about 100 times, and Kirk has said 100 times no. So, I mean, get the hint.
Like, you're right. He's very self-indulgent when he's on the show. Like, it's all about, he's trying as hard as he can to pull Kirk to subscription because he knows as long as Kirk's at Barstool, he ain't getting a job there because he's done nothing but talk down about how, Barstool's irrelevant. He goes at like high Barstool personalities like Carabas, like he tears them down. So he knows he's not getting a job with Dave Portnoy and Barstool. So he has to drag Kirk away from there to get him on subscription like they have, just so he can have some slim chance of getting a job. But even then, I don't know if Kirk would actually give it to him. I think he enjoys the fact that he gets to say no every time he's in. I think that's the only reason he gets him in. Just to say no to him.
Well, he gets him in because he's free and he turns up and he's reliable and he doesn't bother Kirk. I don't think he charges to produce the show.
I feel like they were paying him now.
Okay, maybe they're paying him hourly wage to do it. Like, what's the minimum wage in America? Like $8 an hour?
Yeah, something like that. I think it might be 10 now.
Yeah,
I'm not really sure.
So I guess, a couple of things about Carano. Firstly, that fake beef with Carabas was just full of shit. I mean, as someone that specializes in beefs, that was a fucking awful one. It had no substance to it. Clearly, Carabas was just doing this desperate plea for attention by taking a crack at somebody above him, like punching up to get some notoriety. But it completely backfired. He had nothing to back it up. And it was just horseshit.
I mean, yeah, all Carruthers has to do is say, hey, I have two huge podcasts in the Barstool world. Quantum Week wouldn't tickle the pinky toe of what Carruthers does in at Barstool. So that was hilarious that he like turtled as soon as Jared came into studio. Like he just, yeah, I wouldn't say, no, I don't know. I wouldn't say that. Like he just cowered.
Carruthers just didn't have anything. It was just a attention-seeking fucking bullshit. Yeah. So and I didn't like that.
Good on Carruthers for coming out and going at him. Like that was great.
And the other thing was I didn't like Carano accusing John from Scranton of being a drug dealer. John, if you're watching, you've got my phone number, so I'm still waiting for the delivery. But he is a terrific Minifan, John, and the last thing anyone should accuse him of on a big podcast is dealing drugs. I mean, despite the fact that it's probably true, you don't need to talk about it on a podcast.
Yeah, you don't use that platform. Like, I mean, you could tell it pissed John off, but I mean, you know, he has that chance to do it because he's on a massive show like that. And I know you can tell it pissed John off, but he just accepts that that's the way he can, so that it can happen. And, you know, John sort of went back at him on the John from Scranton super short show. But yeah, you can't be doing that. Like you're the ultimate clout chaser. You're punching up. You're trying to take down other Minifans that, you know, Minifans in the world actually respect and look like listening to and actually produce good content. And it's just really sad. Like, it just feels like he was losing a battle from our Aussie Minifan show when I throw away comment about Quantum Week and clout chasing, you know, not that Chris is, but, you know, that Carano is. And then it turns into this thing where he felt like he had to maybe go at the 14 to, I don't know, try and punch back. But it just wasn't great. It was sad.
Yeah. Carano had a shocker that day. So I'm not happy with him for doing that. I guess, you know, looking over the last few weeks of the show, before we get into a few other things, I've really loved the last few weeks. I enjoyed the 2 weeks when Steve was out. And then last week when Steve was back, I enjoyed some of the shows there, especially when Ryan Whitney was in.
Oh, that was great.
I thought that was a really good show. So we're sort of in a golden period. But I guess as we recorded, our last show was just before Blind Mike came back in and did an appearance. He's actually done 2 since then. He was a mystery guest last week. And I just will point out before I go on, I said on the last Aussie Minifan show, and you'll remember this, I said, I don't know why they haven't got more creative while Mike's been out and got a few people in and just tried to have a bit of fun. So lo and behold, after our show goes to air, all of a sudden Minifans and random people start being brought into the studio. I would say, again, the Mena's influence on the KMS show is rather large.
I mean, it's pretty evident you did call for that. And Quantum Week Chris in, Steve from Providence, Tim from Canton in, you know, the Decent Signal boys, they were in there. And then, you know, Carruthers has continued to come back. Blind Mike's back. And now Ryan Whitney, God, I hope he sticks around because he's awesome. He's not afraid to go back at Kirk. So, yeah, it's the Mena's influence, man.
I'm probably the unofficial second producer.
I thought that was Carano.
No, he's like the fourth. I'd say me, Cullinane third, Justin fourth, Carano fifth.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now, so Mike came in after our last show, and I'm curious whether you think this plan of leaving a very successful podcast that's doing really well, and he was getting paid for it, and then going to start his own podcast and start a Patreon page is a sensible move.
I give him credit for doing it, taking a ballsy step. Like, you know, he's betting on himself. You can't criticize him for it. But yeah, you know, I'm sure Kirk would have had him back on the show, even if it is for 3 days a week when they bring out the new podcast. It's a ballsy step. I hope it pays off for him. I'll definitely become a patron of it because I like Blind Mike. I think he's funny. But I also noticed he's been really good since he's come back. He's been really funny. So I don't know if he's making the right decision.
I
I
love
feel
Mike
like,
on the show.
yeah, he's been good. Like even like the calls where they've called him to like check in how he's going, he's been funny on those with his little one-liners and dropping some good jokes. It's been a good turnaround for him, and I don't know if he's feeling that. And he's like, oh, I'm confident now. I can go out on my own, but he's good in the miniverse. He's good on the show, and he doesn't just get paid, but I'm sure he gets a little bit of a percentage of like the ad rev split and the merchandise. Oh, it's only going to grow. I can't help but think he's making a mistake. But hey, good on him. Take a chance. Take a punt. Back yourself. Hopefully, it all works out for him because
Yeah,
I'm rooting for him.
I'm rooting for him too, and I agree with you. Since he's been back, the show when he's been on, the show's been electric.
Yep.
He bounces off Kirk better than anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it's experience, the fact that he's actually done it for a long time, but he can play that role of sort of having a bit of a laugh and messing around with Kirk better than anyone. But what I don't understand was, couldn't he have kept his job at Barstool and still been part of the show and maybe done the Blind Mike project on the side? Like, I don't, because my feeling is if you start a podcast like the Blind Mike project, you're hoping to get picked up by a bigger network and maybe get paid for it or something, or you get picked up and asked, like Mike gets asked to join another show, but he's already fucking done that. He's part of Kirk Minahan's show. He's part of the Barstool Network. So why couldn't he have done both? Said to Kirk, I want to do the show with you 3 times a week, and I also want to start the Blind Mike project as a side project. And I'm sure Kirk would have said fantastic. Instead, he's fucking leaving. I mean, who's advising fucking Mike? I bet it's that lovely, dumb Albanian girlfriend, Alba, who is sitting there with her stupid takes telling him, oh, get away from Kirk, get away from the toxic environment. Oh, you were so upset, Mike. I really love you. You can do it on your own. Alba, fuck off. I mean, Mike being with Kirk is fantastic for Mike's career, and this is a stupid move.
Yeah, you grab onto the coattails of someone who is going to be a superstar, as Kirk already is, and you just ride it. If she is giving him that advice, that's not a smart move. I feel like maybe Jerry's consultant has come into the picture. Not, at Jerry's consultant, the real Jerry's consultant, Jerry Callahan show. Maybe he's sort of gone on and go, you need to get away from Kirk. Jerry's doing a great job. His show's huge, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think Kirk would have had a problem with him staying on and doing the Blind Mike project on the side. And I doubt Portnoy would care. He'd just see it as, hey, if this gets good enough, maybe we can get rid of him. So yeah, we'll just say yes to it. But yeah, it's a big risk, and hopefully the Minifans get behind him. I think that's going to be most of his fans at the start, especially until he starts getting some bigger name comedians that sort of help him promote. But I mean, it could work. I mean, it's not like there's that many comedy podcasts out there.
Yeah, right. So good luck, Mike. Terrible career move. Career suicide, I'm calling it. He'll be in 10 or 15 years. He'll be a teacher, and he'll be teaching in the blind school, and he'll be earning his little salary a week, and he'll be trotting home, and he'll talk to his mates. Oh, I was on the Barstool Network back in 2019. I was part of the Kirk Minahan show, and they'll be, oh, that's amazing, Mike. What are you doing now? I'm just teaching. So that's what I think about Mike. Also wanted to ask you, I've been sort of theorizing on why Kirk likes Steve so much. I'm trying to get to the heart of what is it about Steve, the producer, that Kirk likes so much. And I have a theory, and it goes back to the EEI days. I think Kirk is one of those people that really likes people that are obedient and do things for him. So same with Curtis and Ken, and now with Steve. The fact is, Steve is very obedient, like a good dog, like a good little puppy dog, like a golden retriever or an Aussie sheepdog. He'd probably be good at herding cattle, Steve. So I feel that he is very obedient, and also he does everything that Kirk wants. Kirk just turns up, sits in his chair, does the show, and leaves. It's almost like Kirk likes these kind of mother figures that just take care of him. Like, I know he was quite close to his mother, Patricia, Kirk was. And I feel that sometimes people who are close to their mothers like people that just take over that role and do everything for them. So I sort of feel in some ways Steve is both an obedient dog and a kind of mother figure that takes sort of everything off Kirk's hands. Why do you think Kirk liked Steve so much?
I mean, he is very good at what he does. He might not be the perfect personality for the show, although in some ways he is. He's that weird enigma, as Eddie always says, that like Steve intrigues me. Like when I have to interview him more because every time you talk to him, something else will come out, another gem will come out. But yeah, you might be right. I mean, he does do everything. Like Kirk shows up, are we good to go? Yep, record, and then leaves at the end, and everything is taken care of. Kirk generally doesn't have to worry about it, aside from the odd scrubbed audio. But it's just something. I think it just makes Kirk's life a lot easier.
Yeah, like your mother would.
Yeah, like he's obviously like battled with mental health and stress and everything like that, and Steve just sort of takes a big load off it by just being awesome at what he does. He just makes it easier for Kirk.
The other thing about Steve is I don't know if you remember, he was talking about how he wants to have a Viking funeral.
I'm not going to lie, I'm exactly the same.
Okay, but if you go back to the audio, and this is evidence that Steve is just a big bullshit artist. He probably wants to be buried in a church and all that bullshit. But you can hear his brain ticking when Kirk says to him, "What do you want? What do you want to happen when you die?" And he starts to think about, okay, what can I make up here that would be interesting and make me seem more edgy? Well, it's the biggest load of bullshit. Steve is just fake, 100% fake. I don't know if there's a real Steve. I don't know if under the robot sort of mechanics there is a real person, but that funeral pyre stuff was complete bullshit. Go and listen to the audio. And the other thing on Steve, right? What the fuck is going on with that studio? If Steve from Providence tells you how dirty it is, something's wrong. Like, can you imagine how bad Steve from Providence house is? So if he goes into the studio and says how bad it is, everybody that goes in says how bad it is. It's not hard to decorate a studio. A few posters, a few bits and pieces, a few plants, get a cleaner in once a month. I mean, come on, Steve, pull the fucking finger out.
I mean, the only person who hasn't said anything about it was Carabas. But you're right. Whitney mentioned it. It was like a bit like a drug den. And yeah, Steve from Providence is bitching about it. Then maybe there is something wrong with it. But I mean, hey, it wouldn't be that way if Kirk wasn't happy with it. Like if Kirk had an issue with it being the way it was, it'd be fixed. But I guess
Kirk comes in and out. He's never in there. He comes and records and leaves.
He's only there to record the show. Like he's not hanging around. So
he pisses by the side of his car rather than using that toilet. Anyway, so
that's clean. So
that's my note for Steve. I mean, I don't know if they have what's called Air Tasker in America, but it's an app where you can just get any old cleaner to come by. Yep. Order a few posters, not hard. Dickhead.
I mean, they've got the mural. They're trying to get the mural up. So
Muriel's ready.
COVID's kind of screwed that, but eventually there will be some decoration. I would say that's probably what Steve's planning on. Once that's up, then he can sort of look around at what he can do. But because of COVID, it's kind of screwed that getting done. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for now. But
You're much nicer than I am.
I loved Whitney comparing it to a drug den.
All right, what did you think of Chris? What did you think of Quantum Week Chris when he went in? I thought he was excellent. Kirk kind of talked him down after, but that's what Kirk does. I mean, if someone came in and gave a brilliant performance, Kirk would say they were shit.
Well, he always says Carabas is really good, and he always is good.
That's true.
I don't know. I only sort of watched the clips that they put out because I didn't listen to a lot when Carano was on, so I don't want to talk shit about him. But I mean, Chris is funny. Like I don't know. There's something about him that that's the thing. I don't hate Quantum Week. I just Carano is the ultimate crowd chaser. Quantum Week Chris is pretty funny. Like he can go with Kirk on movies and stuff like that, and a little bit of the wit. The book about Howard Johnson's was a little bit of a weird one, but I mean, it was kind of topical because Kirk and Steve were talking about it, before Steve went away. So he wasn't terrible. I'd give him maybe a B-.
Okay,
he's not as good as Carabas.
You didn't listen to the whole show, so I don't know. What?
Not a boring minus, a legitimate B-.
Okay, because
he wasn't boring.
I think for a first time he did really well. I mean, he must have been a little bit nervous. I think the show that day was poorly produced, and Kirk really didn't help bring Chris into the show. He kind of just went and Chris was kind of just sort of waiting for a spot to get in. And then they had the interview with cousin Mike. So I think it would have been better to start off with a segment where you sort of bring in Chris to the show more. But generally, I think Chris showed that he could be in once a week, once a month, and have a really good time in there. Probably once a month would be good for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
But I certainly think he was not nearly as bad as Kirk intimated. But I did find the sort of when they went off into the baseball talk and stuff, I was just like, what have we stumbled into? Is this like Section 10 or is this EEI again? I was a bit confused, but generally, I think Chris was very good. But I'm guessing you did listen to Tim and Steve from Providence.
Oh, hell yeah. I can't not. They're the best. Like, them as a combo is just dynamite. You know, when they used to ring in as Stevie Stocks and Timmy Trader, like that was a great little bit on the phone and this decent signal thing. And you could just picture them following Mike around as he goes to the blind school and like taking photos of him. And they're just great. They should be in more often for sure. I know Kirk probably doesn't agree with that, but that was probably one of the best shows that ever been done in the whole history of KMS. So yeah.
I had to listen to that one twice. It was so good. And I think what was good about them is, oh yes. Steve's mum, that was so funny. But I just knew those two would bring it because they don't have some fucking ambition to be on Barstool. So they're not clout chasers. They know Kirk really well and they just want to have a good time. So, yeah, I think it was a brilliant thing to get them in.
Oh, yeah.
Am I coming? Yeah. Is the sound all right? Is my sound okay?
Yeah. It broke up a little bit, but I think, yeah, it's just really windy here. So I think it's fucking with my Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Tim and Steve from Providence, A+.
Yeah, they are two of the greatest Minifans going around at the moment. Like, in their combo, Decent Signal is just great. Like, ripping off Courtney Fallon. It's just, they're great. You know, OG Minifans was probably one of the best YouTube shows other than ours and Menace Live. But yeah, them together. And then, you know, you get into Steve's mom and you could feel Kirk starting to peel the onion back. And Steve knows exactly what's happening as it's happening, but he knows I can't stop it. Like, I'm here, I'm in studio. I just got to roll with the punches. And fair play to him, he just did. Even though it was probably uncomfortable for him. But there were so many good laughable moments. But I mean, you expect
Poor
that
Steve
with Tim
from Providence.
Steve, so.
Poor Steve from Providence. His first wife, his mum, they all hate him. But I think, again, they should be in regularly. Pretty sure Justin Durand shouldn't be in again. Good for him, though, going in. But he was, what, a zero?
He wasn't terrible. I mean, he did exactly what I feel like I would do. Like, you don't want to be in there and be way too over the top. You just want to sort of roll with the punches. Let Kirk do his thing. When he asks you questions, you answer. You just roll with it. You don't try to dominate the conversation. He did good, and you know, very jealous. I mean, it's not like it's an option for us to get over there and be in the studio, but as all Minifans probably are, they would be very jealous that you get to share a show with Kirk and you're immortalized in the KMS world now. So congrats, mate.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd do if I went in. I have a feeling I wouldn't be quiet and I wouldn't just let Kirk do his thing. Like, I have this feeling of me like sitting in his chair waiting for him and like taking a ton of photos at his spot and like him walking in and I'm just sitting where he's supposed to sit. And then like I would go up to give him a hug just because I know he wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Hey, buddy, come on, come in. You know you want a hug. Come on, buddy.
Come on. See, I'm the opposite. I know like he doesn't want to be touched. He doesn't like handshakes. I'd just be like, hey, pleased to meet you. I'd just sit in my seat. I'd probably be like Blind Mike. Just sit there, hey, and just roll with the punches. If I get shit on, I get shit on. I'm not going to take photos of my bread in my hotel room like Justin did, but just roll with the punches, you know?
If we ever do make the pilgrimage from Australia to Boston, you know, we could take a ton of photos at the airport, photos in Sydney, photos, you know, it could be a whole story leading up to it.
Aussie Minifan Show special live from the Watertown studios.
Exactly. Fantastic. But yeah, I think I would have a great time with Kirk. That's my feeling if I went in.
I would do exactly what Justin did. Just let Kirk do whatever the hell he wants with me. Like, Not in that way, but like, yeah, shit on me all you like.
Bend
I don't care. I'll roll
over.
with the punches. He's already
Um,
wished cancer on me. He can't get much worse. So
yeah. All right. The other person that's been in for the first time, Ryan Whitney. Excellent inclusion, full of
Yep.
energy, full of bravado. But I
Yep.
do think there was a bit of that sort of ex-athlete energy coming through. And I don't think he could sustain that kind of impact. I feel like we got the most out of him in that one show, and I'd like to see him again. But for example, I would prefer Quantum Week Chris in over Ryan Whitney.
Ooh, I mean, I'm a Spit and Chicklets guy. I've loved Spit and Chicklets since long before Kirk was at Barstool. So that's why I'm a stoolie, from them and part of my take. I get what you're saying. Weird Dog is like maybe a once a month, maybe once every couple of months, because you're right. He comes in, it's a good splash, but sustained period of time. Maybe he can't have that lasting impact like a Carabas can. But he was good. I mean, Kirk and Whit talked golf, the hockey cards sort of thing, talking about that type of stories. A lot of the stories he said about like the hockey and the private plane and stuff I've heard because of Spit and Chicklets, but it's just funny. The way he talks is just perfect. It's like, it's so good. It works really good on the KMS world. So I loved it. I think he's better than Quantum Week Chris, but I'm a Chicklet, so that's just the way
I
I
was
roll.
a Section 10 listener. That's why I like Carabas so much. I
was.
Yeah, I don't listen anymore. I did think
You
what
listen to
was
Starting Nine.
I don't listen to that either.
His co-host on that is fucking great.
Dallas Braden.
Dallas Braden, yeah, he's so good. So yeah, I still listen to that. And plus, they get the best out of these baseball players. They just make them seem like humans. So
Humans,
yeah.
I might listen. I liked how Whitney seems to know Kirk reasonably well. He did seem to have good knowledge about him. He didn't come in completely sort of oblivious to the Minifan world. So big potential. And as he said, this is what you get when you use your fucking imagination, Steve.
Yeah.
Producer Steve, just get fucking anyone in. Like
Get
even
Colin
Chris,
Mick in.
even Chris wasn't that great as far as Kirk says. Well, he had a few days where he could shit on him and have a laugh at his expense. So
That's it. There's a bit of content,
just just DM me next time, Steve. You're struggling for ideas, dickhead. Other stuff. All right. True crime podcast. So I think we've even know what the actual podcast is about now. Red tweeted out a link to a podcast about a young girl that went missing in Brockton. And I think her name's Jennifer Fay, but don't quote me on that. And I think that's what the podcast is about. And I actually listened to an episode of Vanished about them last night, and it seems like I mean, as a father of a daughter, it just seems like horrific. Your daughter just disappearing like that, but I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I'm pretty keen now. I don't really dabble in the true crime podcast world. I keep telling myself I'm going to, just because there are some really interesting stories, especially the unsolved stuff. But hey, maybe Kirk's going to be the one that kicks me into it, because I'm 100% going to listen. Like, there's no way anything Kirk does I'm not going to listen. It's going to be.
I'll tell you about mine after this as well.
Okay, nice. But yeah, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I actually can't wait. I know it's not coming out till next year, but like, I need more content.
Well, I was thinking this true crime podcast could be the show that brings back MHB and DEC, because this show is more along the lines of when we saw journalist Kirk at EEI, when he pursue these cases and do these kind of journalistic endeavors. And we know MHB and DEC don't find the new KMS show entertaining. So this is more along the lines of what Kirk was before he came to Barstool.
Yeah, I think that's probably why he wanted to go back to it, because it's something that they did it. Like you said, they did it at EEI. They exposed Borges. They exposed Cullen. Like, they exposed Marty Walsh. They love doing that type of stuff. So yeah, it's that itch that he wants to keep scratching. And Portnoy, Erica, they're all on board. They think it's going to be huge, and I reckon it'll be huge too. Like, it's just going to be three great minds, me, Erica, and Portnoy, all think it's going to be huge. So it's going to be massive. I'm so looking forward to it. Anyone who isn't, any Minifan that's not going to listen to it just out of spite because he's cutting it down to 3 shows a week or whatever, man, it's Kirk. It's Kirk content. You just listen. And I think
I agree.
almost now that he's gotten it off his chest, it feels like the shows have gone back to a little bit of a high quality. There was that lull last time we did the show where it wasn't as awesome as it was in the past, but I think we're back up there again once we got to that 2 weeks without Steve.
Well, that was great. They were the best 2 weeks. They were fantastic.
The last two shows of that week, Tim and Steve, and then the Carabas one, and then last week was probably the best week in a long time.
It was pretty good.
It was perfect. So many good episodes.
I still hate Steve. Okay, a couple of beefs. We've got some listener questions. Then we've got the content roundup from the Miniverse to end. So, but just I want your comments on a couple of beefs. So, Steve was very rude to Madawaska Rob on the show, very condescending, talking down to Rob. And then Madawaska Rob went on the KMS wrap up and shredded Steve, completely destroyed him. And I'm just wondering where you sit on Rob v. Steve. And, Steve talking down to Rob is pretty bad.
Yeah, Steve shouldn't be punching down the Minifans. Like, we're the bread and butter. The listeners are the show. And Madawaska Rob, he's a well-known Minifan. He's a pretty awesome dude. We've bonded in the last couple of weeks about our love for sharks. So he's a good dude. And Steve just shouldn't be punching on with Minifans. Just if we go at you like you did, like you go at him, just take it. You're the producer of the KMS show. You're multiple. I mean, what is it, like 6 figures a year? Like, just
that's right.
Take the shit you're going to cop. Like, it's just comes with the territory. We're Minifans. We're not normal. You just got to deal with it. But credit to Rob for going back at him.
I can't remember Rob's show from the KMS network, but whatever it was called, it was 10 times better than the Robinson Report. So,
we only had one Robinson Report.
Well, Steve should be fucking asking Rob for production advice, idiot. And the other beef, it continues. It's Adam and LK versus Diva Dave or Visionless Dave. I like to call him Diva Dave because he's a diva behind the scenes, but it's got pretty nasty between Adam and LK and VD. What are your thoughts?
I've had one of the people in this party talking to me in the DMs because I think they see me interacting with another one. But I mean, I try to stay neutral. I like all three of those guys. Me and VD, we're writers, going back to another Barstool, what would you call it? On-air talent, Enrico Bosco. Terrible name, but funny dude. So we're writers. We bond over that. And me and LK, we're huge into Formula One. We talk about that regularly after races like we did today. So, and I like Adam. He's just a nice dude. Like, you can't hate Adam in Jersey. He's just a cool, nice dude. So I try to stay out of that beef. It's sad when you see Minifans going at each other like that. We should all be one community, united against one goal. We should be, helping Blind Prison Mike and fucking David Riccio. But, it is what it is.
Right,
Minifan, we're not, like I said, we're not normal. We're going to go at each other. I mean, I went at Carano, so that was a warranted part.
Yeah. I have no sides in this, but Adam is particularly annoying. He's very aggravating. So if you watch enough of him or listen to enough of him, he can trigger emotions in you that are unhealthy. And maybe that's what's happened with Diva Dave. But it's getting pretty nasty. All right. Couple of listener questions before content roundup time, and they're both for you. So Milk Dudley has asked, not me, everybody. And the question is, Aussie Stooley, how does it feel knowing that the KMS Rundown would rather quit than invite you on the show?
I mean, that's just false. I have been invited on the show. Obviously it has since, deteriorated with the Ziggy and VD sort of thing. But yeah, that's just false. I've had chats with Red about it. So, and he's just a Carano sycophant. He's probably a $50 Patreon for the Quantum Week podcast. Like, he's just a sycophant to Carano.
That's weird though. So, I mean, you've never been on the Rundown, have you? And you were scheduled to go on very soon, and then all of a sudden they pull the plug.
Yeah, I'll happily jump on if they want to fill in for the time being. But they had a good dynamic. Ziggy and VD going at each other. Red being the moderator. It was a good thing. It's a shame it's broken up because it was funny. But it's just false. I had been offered the opportunity to go on, so it's just scheduling. I couldn't do it.
So fake news, Milk Dudley. Fake news. Yeah. Going North has asked you a question. Aussie Stooley, are you disappointed with how soft Menas has become?
I mean, just tonight, I've seen shades of the old Menace in there. That pure hatred for Steve.
They'll all be
It's
edited
still
out.
in
Don't
there
worry.
somewhere.
They're all going to be slipped out. Snip, snip, snip. You won't hear any of that negativity.
I reckon we can pull him back out. I think Menace Live, the Christmas special, that long Christmas special, I reckon the callers are going to get it out of you. Medium puppy, I'm pleading for you. The repetitive calls, how big's your dick? Get it back. That's how we get Menace back. We got to get old Menace back. He was the terror across the KMS world. We miss you.
So you are disappointed. You are disappointed. You are.
It's weird. It's just weird that I'm the one that creates the controversy on this show now. I'm supposed to be the guy that sits on the fence, but I copped all the heat or praise from going after Carano last show. So it's just weird. It'll take me a couple episodes to get used to having to be that guy, but I think we'll get you back on the Christmas special.
Well, you and I can share the load. So thank you, Going North and Milk Dudley, for those questions. Now, as we always end, it's our content roundup of the Miniverse. How do you think Justin's going as head of the YouTube? And do you like the wrap up?
Yeah, I love that wrap up show, man. I think it's perfect. It's my one criticism of the rundown would have been like it's an hour long. Like I know you're doing the whole week, but the rundown is like the Barstool rundown is every show, every day. It's a small thing. It's sometimes 20 minutes. Maybe it goes over sometimes, depends on the topics, but it's supposed to be quick. The wrap-up show is perfect. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, in and out. I think he's gone over to 20 a couple of times, but that's what it should be. Just quick in and out, get it done, post it. Perfect. He's doing a great job. So I hope he keeps it up.
Good, I agree. I think Jay or the Mayhem should be banned from the wrap-up or actually any show. I mean, he's fucking terrible. He makes no sense when he opens his mouth. He makes noises. He makes Fez look good. It's so yeah. I would ban Jay from the wrap up or Justin and the Minifans. And yeah, I agree with.
I've seen that guy chug maple syrup. He's my guy.
I like him. I think he's hilarious, but he just should not be on any of these shows. He's painful to watch. It's like, when someone runs their fingernails down a blackboard, like him on a show is like that the whole time. And then I think the wrap-up show, I agree with you. It's perfect. I hang out for it every day. When he gets on Madawaska Rob or Tim or any of these people, I think it's great. Good on Justin. Now, have you heard of the John from Scranton Super Short Show?
Yes, I have.
And what do you think about it?
I like it. It's I don't know. Like I'm a John from Scranton guy. Like he's my dude. He's helped me out with my own podcast and stuff. So I'll never hate what he does. It's just cool, It's him. 6 minutes, 10 minutes, couple of topics that he gets into, real quick, done. Nice track to end it. I like it, except for that time when it went for an hour and 15 minutes because it was just dead air for 50 minutes at the end of it. That was a little bit odd, but I was the only one who told him about it. So
has anyone been more desperate to be noticed than John from Scranton?
But see, I don't think it's like that for him now. I just think he likes being creative because he knows Kirk's not going to acknowledge his existence just because it's just Kirk.
Kirk thinks John's out for himself. That's, I think. Kirk
which is crazy because he gets Carano on. Like that's a bad judge of character there, but John's not. John's for the Minifans. All of this stuff is for Minifans. It's content around the Miniverse for the Minifans because he's for the Minifans. And he knows that Kirk's not going to acknowledge him. I've had chats with him before about things that he's done for the show, and there's no acknowledgement of it. I think he's just doing it because he loves being creative. He's testing what he can do with his skills, and yeah, credit to him. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
He plays music for 3 minutes, talks for 3 minutes, and that's it. I mean, it's not particularly skillful.
But sometimes he gets his intros. He gets those good interviews, like the Rich Kelleher interview was good.
Well, that's the John from Scranton show. I mean, there's two. So I like the Super Short Show, because I like John, and it's like 5 minutes. So basically, when I'm having a dump, I'll listen to it. So I don't mind it. I do think it's funny that he could do this show about the Miniverse for the next 10 years, and Kirk will never acknowledge it. But yeah, John from Scranton's show, I moderated an argument between Willie and John from Scranton. So
that was a good one.
You thought that was good?
Yeah, you did really good. And it was good to see Will, his side of the story. I still believe a lot of what Courtney Fallon said, just from what we've heard from Kirk and Steve for Will's work. But hey, Will's an awesome dude. Like, obviously, he's a nice guy. The stuff he did with LK and Tim Riggles on that little trip was good. But, John didn't stab him in the back. Will knows that. It was heat in the moment sort of stuff. It was all fresh when that little beef sort of happened. But hopefully it's squashed now, because I want the original Mincel Intel back as well.
Will did a terrible job defending himself. He basically admitted that he checked out of the job 2 weeks before he was fired. And then he starts off the interview by saying, I'm an audio specialist. And then by the end of the interview, he's complaining about editing the audio. So I'm like, well, what are you actually doing? But yeah, if you missed the John from Scranton show, Will v. John, I do like the concept of two people that have a beef being on a show every week.
I know he wants Carano on, so he and Carano can squash it out. I mean, Carano's never going to do it because he's just soft. He's, the thinnest skinned Minifan in the universe. Just look at all the people that he's blocked. But, keep trying, John. Yeah, maybe one day he'll bow into pressure. But yeah, it's probably never going to happen. At least John's trying.
Yeah, exactly. Now, have you ever heard Kirking Off, Blind Mike's daddy and his cousin Buddy's podcast?
I haven't heard it, but I know I've had it recommended to me that it is actually really good. So I will have to listen. I
am a Minifan content, I guess. Well, no, but I just gorge on it. I love it all. I mean, that's why I hate when Steve turns the show to politics. It could be all Minifan world for me. Anyway, Kirking Off, an announcement. I will be the special guest on the podcast this week. So nice. I'm going on with those guys at the end of the week. But last week they had Kevin from Bristol, and that's
the one I want to watch.
Listen, it's a podcast, so you listen to it. There are about 10 or 15 lines in that podcast that, if given to Kirk in the right context, he will shred Kevin. But it is very good. Poor Kevin, it sounds like he was that close to making it in Hollywood, but one person didn't like him. So go and listen to that, Kevin from Bristol, on Kirking Off. There's certainly a few KMS quotes there. Okay, fine. Last couple. So the rundown, we touched on it before. I guess what disappointed me, it's gone. But the fact that Diva Dave wouldn't go on with Red and Ziggy and do a final show is very sad. It's very hypocritical. You got three people that talk about, Minifan beefs all the time. They're such fucking, exponents of, you should fight about it. So why then did the three of them not go on for one final show?
Yeah. You know what? You should get them on Men is Live. That's where they can come on. They can call in, and then they can have their beef for 5 minutes and done.
Breaking news. They have all declined that invitation. Actually, Red, I haven't asked Red because he's a cunt, but Diva Dave, not interested. Ziggy declined. So there are some guests lined up for Men is Live, but they will not be it.
That's a shame. I thought Ziggy would have been right up for the challenge. He doesn't mind that little bit of confrontation, especially with Steve and VD. So
little puppy dog ran away this time. All right, anything you want to get off your chest before we end this one, Jamie?
I want to shout out Zach from Channel Zero podcast. Like, he was back for an episode. He told his story about why he left. Totally understand it. And Elvin was saying that show is perfect when it's them together. So I hope.
Why did he leave? Why did he leave? What happened?
You know how they got cancelled? Their show sort of got taken off the YouTube. He was worried that the person they were thinking it was Murchison at the time, and he was worried that they were going to come after his work and things like that. He said that they wouldn't have cared. They would have just got rid of him straight away. So credit to him. Family comes first, and he decided to walk away. He was hilarious on it because he's just saying, "Hey, yeah, I wanted to go at him. I wanted to go hard at him, but Elvin and Zach sort of have they got family they got to think about." So and he understood that. So, but yeah, I love that show. They're becoming a Patreon soon, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. But they do genuinely have fans that aren't Kirk Minahan fans. Like, they had people on Vicstar. There was another dude, I can't remember his name, was on one of the last shows that aren't Minifans. They just, love conspiracy theories, love what they do. So it'll work. I think it'll work out for them. I won't be saying 99% of their Patreons are Minifans. It'll probably be more like 75 to 80%. But hey, they're making a go of it.
Should we start a Patreon page for this podcast?
I was actually going to say that.
We could get paid for it. Yeah, we should just start a page. How much would we charge for this show? Like $20 a month? One show a month, $20.
One show a month, 20
plus
bucks,
one
and then-
free bonus. You know what? One free show where you can ask you and I questions, blind mic
a
style.
little AMA, yeah.
Yeah,
that would work.
ask Menas anything.
I reckon a few people would sign up. There are a lot of people that love us. So shout out Lindsay, shout out John from Scranton, BA.
Yeah.
So, you know, I reckon we can make it work. But
Okay,
I mean,
done. So I'll put
that.
that on the list. Patreon, at least 20 a month, at least. All right. Well, and big shout out to Blind Prison Mike. You've never been anything but an asshole to me personally, but I know you're a nice guy, and that is absolutely awful that you lost your job over Minifan world stuff. It just makes me sick in the stomach that could be happening to someone in the world, even though you've never been nice to me, not for 1 second, not for 1 second. But anyway,
he's always been good to me.
I don't hold grudges, asshole.
He's genuine. He's like one of the most genuine Minifans. Like, he's an awesome guy.
It genuinely hates me.
I've DM'd. Well, he's genuine, but like
he's genuine about it.
He's been nothing but good to me. So he's been awesome. Me and him have DM'd a fair bit in the past, not as much recently, but you know what he's done. He's got a family. I encourage everyone to donate. John from Scranton's putting that link everywhere. Go click on it, like, because he's genuinely one of the nicest Minifans going around in the world right now. So
I agree. Shocking.
Help him out.
All right. So last thing, remember, Menas Live, 9 p.m. on the 21st of December. It's going to be a Christmas special extravaganza. Guests, features. It's got calls. It's going to be a long one. So the Menas Live Christmas special will be coming soon, Monday, the 21st of September. This has been the December episode of the Aussie Minifan Show, which means Jamie and I will be back in 2021 with our next show. Thanks very much for listening, and we will be back soon.
Laters.